Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Our Life. Today, we're hopping into more Derek DLC, so we'll see how that goes. Without further ado, let's hop into this. All right, so we're hopping back in. We're going to DLC. It was early morning, but the day was already buzzing with excitement. Your whole family was gathered together, with all five Suarez in their cozy living room. Today, you were all making a trip out to the boardwalk set park. It was a regular enough outing for Derek's family, but it would be your first time going. The boardwalk was a few hours away, and it was even further when setting out from Sunset Bird. That's why the adults decided on meeting up here at the Suarez apartment instead of gathering at the boardwalk itself. It gave your moms a little break from driving, and everyone got their last chance to run for the bathroom. You would be leaving very soon. While you waited for the trip to officially start, you sat on the couch with your hands in your lap. For a few minutes now, you tried to keep track of of what the group gathered around the kitchen counter were up to. Elizabeth, your moms, Miss Suarez were all busy making preparations from what you could tell. Meanwhile, Mr. Suarez has his hands full rounding up his two youngest kids. It seemed that they were taking an anti-shoe stance this morning, and in Nicholas' case, he needed to be talked into wearing a shirt too. On the cushion next to you, Derek was pumped for what the boardwalk had to offer. He was rambling a mile a minute about all the fun stuff he couldn't wait to show you. You were excited about it, you were nervous about how busy it might be, you were simply happy because Derek was happy. Excited. I love trips. Bouncing your leg, you struggled to contain your energy. You were just as eager to experience everything he described. This journey was also the first time you and Derek's families were doing big activity together. You couldn't believe it originally when the adults went through with organizing the trip.
Let's go.
Kids, come join us in the kitchen. It's time to pack your treat bags.
Cool.
Cool. Sliding off the couch, you didn't have the faintest idea what Miss Suarez meant, but you were summoned, and so you followed Derek's lead. He turned to say something over his shoulder. He'd guessed that line might have been confusing to a newcomer. The snack bags are what we do for large trips. Me and my brothers, and you and Elizabeth, too. We get to fill a little plastic baggie with any sweets and stuff we want. I suppose it's supposed to be for eating during the hours-long drive, but no one really cares when we snack. It's just so we have something if we need it. Lucky, that's the coolest idea.
Same.
I think so, too. It's great to have on hand. As you reached the kitchen, Elizabeth breezed past you, with your moms following at a more relaxed pace. Derek raised a skeptical brow and pointed in her direction with his thumb. Doesn't she want a bag? Elizabeth stopped and spun around on her heels. Surprised, Derek pulled his hand back to the side. Elizabeth's lips curled into an all-too-pleased smirk.
So what?
You and Miss Suarez, she called for the kids to come. Ma shook her head at Elizabeth's taunting display. Your sister stepped forward and held up a zip bag that you hadn't noticed before. I already got mine while you were getting things set up for the rest of you. Her baggie was full of dried fruits and chocolate chips. She teasingly dangled it in front of your face and then in Derek's. Very mature, Elizabeth. You're not one of the kids at all. You snicker, you stick out your tongue, you shake your head, you rolled your eyes. You just stared at Elizabeth. We're gonna roll our eyes. Crossing your arms, you glanced at Derek. He scratched the back of his neck awkwardly. Siblings, huh? You could tell that he was fighting it, but slowly his teeth peeked out, and then Ma broke out in a pit of giggles that pulled you and Derek into. Elizabeth let out a deep sigh. After she left the kitchen and plopped down in your old spot on the couch, your moms joined her, putting Elizabeth in the middle, Ma comfortingly patting Elizabeth's leg. Glancing back towards the kitchen, George and Nicholas were finally dressed, and they dashed ahead of you. They excitedly crowded around their mom's leg. Now, don't forget this bag actually has to be able to close for it to count. She began passing out the baggies to her two youngest, and then Miss Suarez turned to you and winked. That's my one rule for the treat bags. Other than that, feel free to go crazy. Nicholas and George took that as their cue to rush up to the counter lined with tasty options and started stuffing their bags. Miss Schwartz handed you and Derek your own plastic baggies. Now it was in your hand. You realized that it was the smallest zip bag size. There was no way that you were going to get a bit of everything. From my experience, you can fit about 4 handfuls of stuff before it starts getting too tough to close. Answered before I could even ask. Thanks, mind reader. The youngest boy swiftly finished selecting their road trip treats. George's bags closed easily while Nicholas was proving a challenge to squeeze shut. The plastic was ballooned out on the sides entirely full of cookies and candy. His brow pinched as he struggled with the zip. To everyone's surprise, Nicholas got it to seal, and he proudly held the bag up for his mom's inspection. Impressed, she nodded. Don't forget to take a water bottle too. We don't want to lose anyone to dehydration today. The 2 boys held their prize tightly and grabbed the water bottles off the edge of the counter on their way out of the kitchen. It was your turn now at the buffet. The spread was delicious. Fruit peanuts, almonds, walnuts, light crackers, sunflower seeds, shortbread cookies, dried mangoes, dried apples, red cranberry, cereal, granola, chocolate chips, mango. I love sandwich cookies. I don't like nuts. Gummy candies. Enjoy. Humming, you happily ran your hand across the side of the plastic baggie. You were grateful for your haul, and you proudly showed it to Derek. He gave you a thumbs up.
I gotcha.
Variety is the spice of life. He closed his bag and you realized that it was completely full of a bunch of different things, too. Chuckling, you gently poked the straining side of his plastic baggie. Yes, it is. Derek leaned across the counter for the water bottles. He slid over one for you to take and grabbed one for himself, too. Okay, I'll close up the packs then. We can leave this out here for now.
Is that fine?
We don't have any more time to lose. Are we all ready? Several voices called back, answering yes. Miss Suarez raised an eyebrow and walked out of the kitchen. No one needs to go potty? No.
No.
I don't have to go potty.
Good.
Good. Anyone have questions before we go? She put her hands on her hips and glanced around the apartment. Miss Suarez raised his hand and as he caught her eye. I'd like to know how we'll arrange the rides. There's room for 5 in the back of our car and room for 3 in the Payne car.
What do you think?
If there's room to switch who's bringing who, if there's a want for it. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Elizabeth and Ari are welcome to ride with us, or Derek can feel free to go with Pamela. And Noelian. Nicholas and George are staying in our van, though. Frustrated, both smaller boys pouted at their exclusion. George's jaw clenched as he crossed his arm. I'm not a baby. Why do I gotta stay in the van? I'm not a baby. Nicholas, you still need a booster seat. We can't put that in their car. Miss Suarez chuckled at Nicholas' angry grumble as he passed by in the kitchen, aiming to pick at the remaining snacks. Miss Suarez sighed in a tickled but still a long-suffering way. Dad and I need you there to stay awake for such a long drive. Can you two please keep us company in the car ride? Releasing a deep breath, George nodded, and he knew this wasn't the day his mom was going to relent. Nicholas, on the other hand, continued to pout. Okay, Mom. Well, what about you? What do you think, Lonnie?
That's fine.
Either way is fine with me. I'm up to the kids to decide where they'd prefer. I'll stick with Mom's. She then curiously shifted her attention to you. The corner of her mouth pulled into a smirk because she knew that you and your friend were the ones this whole decision was for. Derek leaned in close to you, cupping his hands side of his mouth so only you could hear him. Ari, what are you thinking? It makes sense for everyone to ride with their parents. I want to ride with the Suarezes. Derek should ride with us. Well, if he's alright with that, what are you thinking? Well, if she wants to ride with Mom's, let's see what he's thinking. He inched back and nervously scratched the side of his neck. His cheek turned dark shaded pink.
Well,
I'd be cool if you rode with me and my family. Then let's go with your idea. Really cool.
let's go.
Okay, now that's settled. We'll see you there.
Take care.
See you soon, sweetie.
Oh,
Hold on, one last thing. Miss Suarez went over to your mom's and quickly went into some last-minute advice on the directions. While you waited, you noticed out of the corner of your eye Miss Suarez had moved from nibbling on the snacks. Instead, you caught him passing George and Nicholas an extra cookie each. Genuine cheer came back to both expressions. They were so thrilled about the secret cookies that their earlier bitterness about being babied was all sweetened out. And was that. Snacks and drinks were set. No one needed to go potty. The rides were arranged, directions were obtained. It was finally time to get the trip started. The two families left the condo behind, chattering with eagerness for the day's activities. At the parking lot, the group split up to get into different cars. You followed you followed Derek into his parents' minivan. Buckling up, you settled for the long haul. Here we go. The Suarez minivan was a full house. Mr. Suarez hopped behind the wheel with his wife sitting shotgun. She bent back to double check that Nicholas was fully strapped into the car seat behind her. Derek, of course, had to sit in the one open seat in that second row that was left. Derek, of course, had to sit in the open seat in the second row that left you and George to take control of the way back. Miss Suarez, brow forward with frustration, once again became a battle, wiggling. A 6-year-old fought against her attempts to tighten the car seat's front straps. Once she succeeded, Miss Suarez had brushed the hair that fell forward behind her ear and turned to the rest of you with a lighter expression. Well, all ready? Yes. Yes, Mom. Boardwalk fun? Here we come.
Very good.
Good. She made sure Nicholas was secure one last time before getting herself situated properly. You heard the click of her seatbelt, and then Miss Suarez shifted her attention this time to the last row of seats. It's so nice to have you here, Ari. Thanks for having me. It's awesome getting more time with Derek. He's been telling me all about the boardwalk. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully it lives up to expectations today. Now that everyone was settled in the car, roared to life, Miss Suarez pulled onto the road. Out of habit, he reached over to click the CD player on. Upbeat children's music loudly filled the car. Squealing with excitement, Nicholas started kicking his feet to the beat of the song. Next, George leaned an elbow on the car door and rested his chin on the palm of his hand. There was a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth as he settled in to stare out the window. He got Derek's green eyes gazing to peek at you from the space between the headrest and the backrest of the seat. You waved at him. Derek moved out of sight, but only to twist around in the seat to talk to you directly.
It's all good.
Thanks for coming with us on the drive. I can't wait for you to see the boardwalk. It's going to be fun. You only got as far as opening your mouth when Nicholas erupted into a stream of loud cheers. Then the youngest boy threw both of his arms in the air, and Derek ducked in his seat, clearly embarrassed.
Woo!
Nicholas' outburst didn't surprise you one bit. A tiny chuckle escaped Derek as he slowly slid his gaze back over to you. Sorry about that, Ari. The whole drive is probably going to be this rowdy. I can handle it. You joined in celebration, chatting about the day's plan. You sang along with the music to entertain Nicholas. Oh, what's that out the window? Look, you joked. Sat there quietly. Let's, What? He scanned everything that he could see from his car seat. When there was nothing eye-catching to find, Nicholas promptly moved his attention back towards you. I don't get it. What did you see, Ari? It was... You lifted a few inches in your seat and peered out the window, past his mop of hair, and you let yourself plop back down. Oh darn, you must have missed it. What was it? A cow? No way. Yeah, huh? And, oh, there's another one. Leaning forward, you pointed at his window. Nicholas spun and squished the palm of his hands to his nose in the glass. Where? It's right there. And it's wearing a cowboy hat, too. Can you believe it? I can't find it. Darn, you missed it again. It blinked away like it had a teleporter. But you know what that means. Nicholas's eyes widened. He quickly stared, shaking his head, holding a single finger to your lips for him to remain quiet. You scooted forward as far as you could in his direction. It means that they must have been secretly undercover agent. Nicholas gasped at your revelation, and then he sat back in his car seat. He crossed his arm and peered out the window again. Don't worry, we'll just have to keep our eyes out to spot more secrets hiding in plain sight, right? Yeah. Later during the drive, Nicholas let out a gleeful squeal. You were confused at first. What managed to get that reaction out of him, but soon became clear. Nicholas remembered that he had an entire baggie of snacks. He triumphantly pulled it from his pocket and started munching away at all the tasty treats inside. For once, George followed Nicholas's lead and relaxed into a chill snack time. George munched away while watching the world pass by out of his window. Derek, on the other hand, simply rested back into his seat with his arms out behind his head. You decided to have some snack, everything you had. You saved your snacks for later. We'll have some. We'll save some for later, but let's snack a little now. All it took was one look, and your stomach felt envious. You pulled your zip baggie out and decided to treat yourself to a handful too. After Nicholas had devoured every crumb and licked every bit of sugar from his fingers, he was ready to play again. And so the ride continued on the blasting beat of classic kindergarten tunes and with fun road trip games. And despite the trips supposedly taking hours, it didn't feel like long until you noticed the first sign of your destination. With building anticipation, you caught the first flashes of the tall rides in the distance. Both families pulled into the parking lot, and the kids excitedly bounced out of the cars. The parents cheerfully waved at each other as the groups closed the distance between them. With everyone regrouped and the family strolled onto the boardwalk, your eyes widened. The place was even more amazing than you'd imagined. It was like you'd stepped into a bright world of color. There were shops displaying various beach towels and boogie boards decorated with your popular cartoon characters and flowers. Clothing stalls had racks of sundresses, cover-ups, and swimwear in every pattern imaginable. Ahead of you, you could make out colorful tufts or stuffed animals from the prize boards. Darts, ring toss, skis, ball, and more waited further down the boardwalk. Music filled the air, but when you listened closely, you could make out so much more. There were various cheers and shouts of victory, joy, and fear. The screams had to be coming from the massive wooden roller coaster that towered beyond the stalls. From what you could tell already, the boardwalk was easily 5 times the scale of the entire shopping street in Sunset Bird. You loved it. You still preferred your own town shoreside tourist trap. You suddenly felt uncomfortable. You were in good spirits. You didn't know what to think. Loved it. It was exhilarating, taking the scope of the boardwalk in. You were going to implode if you didn't start exploring soon. The group began navigating down the wooden boards. Miss Suarez hastily grabbed Nicholas's arm for safekeeping, and just in time too. The bustling mood of the area had Nicholas raring to go. He wanted to see, play, and explore every inch. Unfortunately, the 4 parents were just not as energetic as the hyper 6-year-old. With an affectionate shake of her head, Miss Suarez struggled to hold on to Nicholas's tiny hand as he attempted to sprint ahead. Irene, why not let the children go?
What?
Huh?
Will that be fine?
The children here, this child here, and the rest of them, I'm sure they'd rather enjoy the park on their own and at their own pace. They'd be safe with each other. She carefully weighed the scenario in her mind, while Nicholas was too busy trying to forcibly move her forward to notice the important conversation happening. Your mom shared a glance. I'd be alright with that as long as nobody left the boardwalk. It's large, but not too large.
All right.
The kids are getting older, and they've earned a little bit of freedom from all our seeking eyes. Okay, adults and kids get to have their own day at the boardwalk. You caught both Elizabeth and Derek perking up. This was clearly a sign of a perfect day ahead for the two of you. And then Miss Suarez passed Nicholas off to her husband for a moment. She motioned for the older kids to circle closer.
No more.
No more treats for Nicholas. He's had enough candy and cookies for the day. I'm counting on you to keep to that. Miss Suarez over there can't be trusted.
Oops.
Oops. He stood up straighter and looked away from his wife, pretending that he had no idea what she was talking about. Her knowing smile cracked into a light-hearted laugh. You admired the way her eyes sparkled, teasing her husband. She moved her attention back to the rest of you. Both George and Elizabeth gave her confident nods.
I'm on it.
We've got this, Mom. Derek answered with an added thumbs up. Miss Suarez proudly beamed, letting her gaze go between her boys. No need to worry, you can count on us. Speaking of getting things, I have some money on hand for me and my brothers. Will you and Elizabeth be able to buy ride tickets and knickknacks or any of that sort of stuff? I double-checked the pocket change I have is gonna be enough for anything. I remembered my wallet. I've got a nickel. I didn't bring any money. He frowned wordlessly. I remembered my wallet. You confidently put your hands on your hips. Unimpressed, Elizabeth rolled her eyes. Good for you.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. We're gonna spend money on you two today anyway, so there's no harm if we let you have it. Besides, we don't get to go on trips like this every day. Go a little wild. Exactly, we want you to be able to do things here. Mom dug in her purse and then she pulled out a handful of bills. She carefully counted $15 and handed it to Elizabeth. Your sister was unimpressed at that moment at that amount and recounted the bills herself. Mom handed you your own $15 next. You quietly chuckled to yourself. You couldn't help but think about how it probably would have been a 20 if Mr. Holden was there. Thanks. I'll use this wisely.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mom.
All right.
We're all set. We will meet again here at 8 p.m. in front of this first stall. Miss Suarez took her youngest arms and crouched down to his level. She brushed some stray hairs out of his face. Oh, go and stay with your brothers today. Be good for them. With an eager nod, Nicholas bolted over to Derek and clung to his jeans. Derek laughed at the sudden weight and put his hands firmly on the younger boy's shoulder, just in case he decided to run off. The two set of parents disappeared into the crowd, moving towards the nearby stores. Standing on your tippy toes, you caught your moms waving goodbye one last time before they were completely out of sight. Elizabeth spun in a circle, spotting all the different things she might want to try. She must have deemed the boardwalk to be cool because she was cheerier by the second. Eventually, her gaze returned back to the Suarez brothers. It was clear that her daydream crashed back down to reality. Next to her, George walked up on his tiptoes and back down. Catching your eyes, he stopped and nervously inched a little bit closer to Derek. It must have felt awkward for a little kid to have two new additions to what's usually a special family affair. You offered him a smile, but tried not to stare at him. You were so eager to get going already. The clock was ticking, and you didn't want to miss a single activity. Derek awkwardly took a couple large steps forward. His strides were wobbly since Nicholas held on to him tighter, but Derek was ultimately unfazed. Okay, we should start the day right by face painting stall is up near the front.
Yeah.
Face painting! George brightened with that notion, and Nicholas shook Derek as hard as he could without shaking himself off. Derek grinned wide as he laughed at his brother's delight. Yeah, let's go.
So immature.
Face painting? Are you serious? Nicholas was too absorbed with the thought of paint to notice her attitude, but George was vastly interested. You couldn't pinpoint the exact second Elizabeth remembered how much younger Derek's siblings were. Elizabeth uncrossed her arms, feeling a bit rotten. She cleared her throat and begrudgingly tried to pull back on her visible distaste. I don't need one. However, of course, we can go over to that cell. Anyone who wants to do it should. That's great. Honestly, there are a lot of times to do tons of things. It's not a big deal if sometime isn't what you'd want to do, right? His green stare hardened. He directed the statement at both the youngest and the oldest member in the crew. Elizabeth snorted, displeased. The kids like Derek was acting like he was in charge. But Derek wasn't in his respectful guest mode. Which is what Elizabeth usually saw of him in the neighborhood. Derek was entirely in the eldest brother role. He kept his stern stare on for another moment before shifting to you. Are you alright with letting my brothers get their face painted? You can too if you want. It's actually a lot of fun. I'll get my face painted too. Move face paint. I don't mind going. I don't want to get painted either. You nodded. You simply shrugged in acceptance. Face paint. Nicholas victoriously bounced, knocking against Derek. You even caught a smile growing back on George's face. Before anybody moved, Derek carefully removed Nicholas' hand from pants and took a hold of the youngest boy's hand instead, like his mom had done before. Derek cheerfully pointed ahead with his free hand.
Let's go.
Yeah, boy. Derek led the way for the group. You followed his line of sight to the row of shops and spotted a large, colorful umbrella. As you approached, you noticed the two open chairs under the shade of that umbrella, one for the artist and one for the person being painted. Next to it was a canvas posted with a collage of photos. The examples showed off cheeks dotted with daisies, sparkling golden stars shooting over temples, peace signs, and a whole rainbow of butterflies. Skulls and spiders were options for kids who wanted to get their face painted and still look tough. Someone like Cove, you thought to yourself, chuckling. Of course, that was only a joke. You were positive Cove would actually get a fish, or shell, or a dolphin, something like that. You peeked at the painting tools in the mirror on the wheeled counter. The artist appeared to be a teen just out of high school or maybe in college. Many of the stalls you passed had younger people running them. The artist eyed your group carefully in return. Hello. Hi. Welcome Hi, welcome. I'm Xavier. Would you like me to paint your face today?
Definitely.
Yes, please. Xavier went over, plopped down one of the chairs. Derek nudged George towards the other. Do you want to go first? George hesitated and chewed his bottom lip, but he wasn't sure until he realized that no one else had moved to take the open seat. He seized the opportunity and sat down. What can I do for you?
Okay.
I want a football right here. Without missing a beat, George pointed to his forehead. Elizabeth huffed quietly at the conversation, but Xavier gave a serious nod. I can do that, no problem. The artist lightly brushed George bangs aside and began to work. Next to you, Derek's brows furrowed intently as he studied the picture collage of options. I don't think you could possibly think any harder without breaking your brain. What's the problem? But Derek continued to quietly mull things over as he pressed a hand on his chin and sighed. This will get what I get. I'm not sure what to get. Because of that, he doesn't like soccer as much as George likes football. So that's probably not the best choice. I could get a car for obvious reasons, but Nicholas also really loves rainbows. And he does already have cars on his shirt. Just get the car. You can't lose with that. It's sweet he loves rainbows. Let him have one. You could get a spider. Nicholas can pretend it's a real one and scare people. Rainbow. Rainbow's pretty neutral. Chuckling, Derek shook his head at your enthusiasm. He raised his hand in surrender. All right, I'll get a rainbow. George's football didn't take long to finish at all. He got up with a delighted grin and tried to tip his head enough to see the painting in the mirror. He couldn't, but that didn't put a damper on his fun. One of his hands hovered around the football, and you knew what he was fighting the urge to poke at the wet paint. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like and subscribe. That way you can come back to see where this is going, because I know this is multiple parts. It was a long one, I won't lie, but it was worth it. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.